Welcome to Brand Rescue, a marketing and PR podcast for businesses who want the real deal, not trendy fluff or complicated funnels. From PR to paid ads, we share free advice that actually works because mediocre marketing is so last season. Ready? Your marketing comeback starts right now. Hey, everybody. Welcome back. Today's episode is going to be an awesome interview for y'all. We're talking about podcasting. Funny enough, we're talking about guesting on podcasts today. So I brought an expert on for you guys. I'm excited to introduce you to Carrolee Moore. She's the founder and CEO of the Podcast Pitching Society. Hey, Carrolee, welcome to the show.
Hey, Whitney, thank you so much for having me. I'm very, very excited about our conversation today.
Me too. I mean, obviously, I like podcasting, so here we are, and obviously, you did a great job pitching because here you are. So, so I like to start these off by letting our guests share a little bit about who they are, what they do, how you started the society, all that good stuff. Give us a scoop.
Sure. So, honestly, I like to say I've been a storyteller for most of my life. I'm actually Jamaican, which I don't know that we ever covered that, but I was born there, raised there. And when I immigrated to the United States, that was how I got introduced to the culture, was through storytelling. So it was music, it was movies, it was, books written by American authors. I just like dove all the way in to try and learn. And so that obsession has never left. And so everything that I've done post college has been connected to storytelling. So whether I was in corporate relations telling the stories of like researchers doing amazing work at MIT and trying to sell it to companies like Facebook and Salesforce and all the things, or I was working for a nonprofit trying to get those same big companies to, you know, um, give money to help the homeless population. No matter what it was that I was doing, storytelling was a part of that. And so when I left corporate America, I started a marketing agency specifically for that. So we told stories with websites, with branding, with social media, etc. And then I got burnt out because I built that up, multi six figures, and was doing all the things, living my dream, but I was miserable. Right. And so I decided at the middle of last year, you know, super hard decision to let all of my team members go, save one. And for the next 3 months, went on kind of a soul searching journey and asked a ton of questions. I wanted to build something that didn't feel like a nice to have. I wanted to build something that it felt like the market was already asking for and that would actually be impactful, not just on the ROI of things, but genuinely on like the world. And that's a big, or like
These are
task.
like deep questions you're asking yourself. Like, what is the meaning of my life? What is the meaning of my career?
Yeah, when you get burnt out, when I say burnt out, I don't mean like, oh, I was tired. Oh my God. I am like 130 pounds soaking wet. And I found out that I was pre-diabetic. I also, yeah, I was going through it health wise because of stress. I was getting heart palpitations. I was not able to sleep really well at night. It was just tough. Right. And so when I stopped doing that, my whole idea was like, I need to find something that even on the hard days, it's still like life-giving. I still feel like I'm making a difference. And so the stress, because it's gonna come, it's entrepreneurship, let's be real. It's worth it. And so I found my way to podcasting because I had been doing it already. We had already been pitching me for a podcast. We had already I've already been on dozens of podcasts to that point. And so really, I was just thinking about, okay, here's this thing that I've been doing. I've produced podcasts before. I had my own podcast. I was already in this world and it was like a duh. And so as I was talking to folks, I'm like, what if I built this thing? Like, is this something that you would want? Because from hearing from folks, it was all about visibility. I'm sure this as a PR professional as well. And if you're listening and you're in marketing and PR, that's like the thing now. Everyone wants to be visible because there's just a lot of noise. There's a lot of noise and a lot of competition. And what we found is there's a lot more people doing content, putting things out, and not as many people still watching. That's why you're seeing social media kind of struggling and all the things. And so I wanted to figure out a way to inject my voice into that and in a way that wasn't already being done. And that's the reason why I focus on experts. I focus specifically on working with underrepresented um, populations, so women and people of color, because that's where the impact is. That's where I felt like I was gonna be like, I could do the same thing for, like, tech startups and whatever.
For sure.
But my heart is with the folks that have been told that their voice doesn't matter for most of their career. The folks that are like, "Well, I'm an introvert. I can't go on a podcast and, like, talk for 30, 45 minutes." Those are the folks that I wanna help, like, take on a journey and see the light come on and then get excited about, talking about the stuff that they've been doing all this time. So really it's storytelling, but now there's so much purpose behind the work that I do. It's not just podcast pitching. It's really helping people unlock mental blocks. It's helping them see their business and their brand in totally new ways and going further and kind of seeing podcasting, and this is like majority of what we're going to talk about today of like not just an opportunity to sit and chat. It's really an opportunity for you to share, what makes you unique and how you can help people and connecting them to whatever the solutions are that you offer.
100%. I think podcasting is like still evolving, obviously. But people ask me all the time, they're like, how much money do you make off that podcast? And I'm like, I don't make money off the podcast. And they're like, wow, you spend a lot of time producing this podcast. Like, why do you do that? And I actually, like, really sat with that question for a little while of, like, "Why do I do this?" Like, we have an editor who handles all of this. I spend a ton of time, finding guests, scheduling them, interviewing them, doing solo episodes, really thinking about the topics that I talk about on the solo. I mean, there's a lot that goes into it, and ultimately, I thought to myself, I think the value of this is 2 things: thought leadership, I think, goes a long way when people view you as like, wow, she's a thought leader in the space. And also valuable connections, like hello, I'm in PR. You know what I mean? Like everything in my career is based around who I know and the connections that I have. And I think it's been so valuable in connecting me with people that I would have never ever. I mean, really, when would you and I have ever met? Probably, you know, unless you go to a conference or something like that. Like, when do you get an hour of time to sit down with somebody and get to know them, you know? So I think for me that and when I sat with that, I was like, I think that's valuable. I think that's incredibly valuable in what I do.
It is incredibly valuable, especially now. We are so burnt out. We are so burnt out from just the scrolling, the mindless scrolling, and the 30-second, 60-second reels of like, "Hey, you we are so burnt out." People are choosing to be like, "Hey, I'm gonna close this down, and I'm gonna pop on a podcast, and I'm gonna listen to my friend Whitney, who's gonna talk," you know what I mean? Who has somebody who she's talking to today about this amazing, topic that I might be interested in. I really love listening to the episode that you had. She was a agency owner who was kind of talking about her team and how she downsized and what it meant for her going through COVID and like doing for me as someone who I'm listening, I'm like, that's my story. I went from like this huge team and downsizing now that where they're, small few doing a lot of great work and realizing that we can use AI and do it like that's the rub, right? People are coming into these spaces to learn. We're not just kind of mindlessly scrolling when we're doing podcasts. So I think it's really smart. On top of what you said though, too, Whitney, I think it's also when people are searching for you, when they're thinking about hiring a PR agent, right? What do you think they're doing? They're g li listen, people are now, detectives out here because so many people are lying. There's so many fake experts.
Okay, and we need to actually but we'll sidebar on that in a minute, but that's a real the smoke and mirrors is like, whoo, it's bad. It's so bad. So,
No, for sure. So, like, honestly, that's another piece. It's like, "Hey, if I can see that this person knows their stuff because I can now binge on all that they know, I feel more comfortable trusting someone to say, 'Okay, let's go.'"
yeah, I'm pretty much the easiest person to stalk. Like, if someone actually wanted to stalk me, like, holy cow, like, they could get to know me in a hot second, you know?
And that is what people are trying to do.
Yeah.
We've had the last probably 10 years where, all the fakesters went gangbusters, right? They
Mhm.
made millions of dollars figuring they were at the way to the top. Now, I feel like we're in the age of the real expert.
Mhm.
Why? Because it's becoming easier and easier for people to validate, like, does this person actually know what they're doing? Are these results real? Are those screenshots real? These you know what I mean? So, like,
We
all
question everything.
everything
I
as
definitely
you
question
should,
everything.
as you should.
Yeah.
Right? So, I think podcasting and being on podcasts, and especially if you have your own podcast, going on a podcast tour and actually showcasing all of the knowledge that you have and say, "Hey, come over to the party, come hang out with me on my podcast," is the smartest way to go. You see that now, like everyone, even podcast producers are preaching, like, go on other people's podcasts. This
Yeah.
is just like the better way to build your thought leadership, the better way to build your brand and for people to actually like my favorite thing is to when someone's like, "I read that in your voice."
Yeah.
Like, I could hear you. You know what I mean? They're reading your captions and they know what your voice sounds like.
Yes,
They
that's how
know that
my
I talk
emails
with my
are.
voice.
When I email people, they're like, "I know that it's really you because I email the same way that I talk."
Yeah.
And same thing when I'm texting somebody, I text the same way that I've talked, so people who
Yeah.
know me will know. Like, if someone ever snatched my phone or if I was kidnapped, then they would know if
Like,
that
that's
was
not
me
Whitney.
texting because that's not Whitney. Like, but I do think I love that you say we're in the era of, like, real experts because I do think that the phonies are the ones for a long time that had the means to go out and you saw the same people on podcasts, on interviews, on everything over and over and over again.
That's
And I'm
right.
not saying they're all phony. I'm really not. There are probably some of them that are honestly legit, but there are so many intelligent people that are not being seen because they're not putting themselves out there. And that makes me a little cuckoo. I call them, like, undercover badasses, they're my favorite. When you meet somebody, gosh, I'm gonna have to think of one, but when I meet somebody and I really look at everything that they've done and I'm like, "Oh my god," and, oh, and I know of I don't wanna call anybody my name, but it just popped into my head. I'm like, "This person is actually really talented and has done really, really, really big things, but do they have 500,000 followers on Instagram? No, they don't." That half the time their LinkedIn profile may not even have a photo on it, but they're too busy kicking ass to even slow down and deal with some of this other stuff that other people are doing, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's spot on, and honestly, I don't mean to brag, but that's pretty much like 100% of our clientele.
Yeah,
These are people who
and they need a voice.
yeah, these are people you go on their LinkedIn and you're like, "What's happening?" Like, all you're gonna see is like, "Oh, they worked at Deloitte." You'll see the kind of
Yeah.
the little spatterings of it, right? But you have no idea that these women are like killing it the way that they have been and are like transforming their industry and like doing incredible work for 15, 20 years. And they're not the ones getting paid 25K to go and speak at conferences. Why? Because they're not even pitching to be that, right? They're not the ones who are putting themselves out to be in front of everyone else. But now they're realizing they have to be. Now they're getting to a place in their career, they're like, "Yeah, I don't wanna be the one in the back doing all the work while whoever it is gets" whatever. I want my voice to be heard. I want my perspective to be heard. I want the way that I'm going about doing this and solving these problems. I want for that to be on Front Street. And that's what I'm excited about. It's kind of like, especially women, right? Coming into their own power and saying, listen, I've been doing all this work for all this time. And my boss or my boss's boss has been the one out like, our team has just been. Meanwhile, like, I'm the one doing all the work. Now I want to come out and say, like, this is what it is. This is what I'm doing. And like plant my own flag and speak for myself and for the work that I've done. Oh my God, it's like you can kind of tell I'm fired up. It's I love helping them do that.
So, do you
Um,
think they're not putting themselves out there because A, they don't feel worthy of it? Or is it more they don't have the time or they don't have the means or they just don't know how to do it? I see that a lot with people. They're like, "How did you even get on that podcast?" And I'm like, "I wrote an email,"
yeah.
like
So here's the thing, and this is something I struggle with myself. So I'm not judging. So if you're listening to this and it like it gets you like a little bit, just know you're not alone. I'm a perfectionist, and because I've taken so many years to build up real expertise, I'm super careful about what I say because I want to make sure that there's like some base of reality in it. There's a lot of people out here just like speaking nonsense, right? And it doesn't matter. They don't care.
yeah. Or they're
Right?
regurgitating what they read on someone else's
That,
site.
right? That. But the folks that actually are experts, I've noticed that they're a lot more careful and hesitant and nervous and anxious about putting themselves out there and being contrarian because they've been taught to be very expressive to a point, right? Don't ruffle the feathers of the corporate, right? Say a certain thing, right? And that's pretty much it. That's it. That's all they've been allowed to do. And so now that they're in the space where I'm telling them, take the training wheels off, run. And they're like, but hold this has to be right. This and I'm like, no, no, just like say the thing, right? Be contrarian. Just say, hey, I've seen us do this for 15, 20 years the absolute wrong way. And here is the best way to do that, right? Focus on that. Nobody cares about your resume. They want to know and understand like what does all that mean for me? What is that transformation for me?
This is what makes me crazy about corporate America. I've been out of corporate America for 12 plus years now. This is what makes me crazy is that there are opportunities and things that will arise and the corporate office will policy it to death for 6 months until you lose the opportunity instead of just going for it. And listen, I'm kind of a perfectionist too. I'm not great at taking messy action, but sometimes I've learned in PR when the opportunity comes, don't sit there and chew on it for
Exactly.
6 months. So this is like part of the reason why I left my corporate job was cuz I would come with all these ideas. Of course, I was like 25 years old. So I had all these ideas of like, what if we did this? And what if we did that? And what if we did this? And like literally it would take so long. Like just now they sent me approval to do the ice bucket challenge. Kidding, kidding. Ice bucket challenge was literally like 10 years ago, but that's
I
the
know.
joke that I use is like, I'm just now getting approval to do the ice bucket challenge with our CEO. Oh, wait, that trend was 10 years ago? Sorry, like it just I feel like corporate just policies the crap out of everything and then you lose the moment.
1,000%. And I think for folks that are listening, especially if you are in marketing and thinking about ways to get visibility as well, honestly, like social media is awesome. We understand that there's value and there's power in all the things in social media. However, recognizing that a lot of ways people are making decisions differently now. It's very hard to convert someone from a reel like a single reel, right? But I've converted people from a single podcast interview.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's more expansive and it's more niche, right? Like, even coming on today, like, I know who my listeners are. My listeners are other marketing and PR people, you know? So it's easy to speak directly to them and give them, like, actual value when you know who you're talking to, you know?
Exactly.
Social media is a little bit different because it can get in the hands of anyone and everyone kinda thing, which isn't always a bad thing, but I just think podcasting is so much more niche. Besides these big monster lifestyle podcasts that, talk about anything and everything. But other than that, I think niche is actually more effective than just spray and pray, you know?
It absolutely is. And one of the things that I love about niche podcasts as well is honestly, this is where you get to test things out. And I tell this to especially our new clients. It's like you can talk and tell your stories, but also if you have messaging that you want to test out, right? If you're a marketing professional, PR professional, you want to go on and use some of the little messaging that you have and see whether that works. Like, did that feel good to you? How did the actual podcast host respond? Did you get any kind of feedback after the episode dropped from folks? You can test a bunch of stuff with podcasts, and you get to do it over and over and over again. And you have your test case, the people that are listening are more than likely your ideal clients, right? They're not just randos on the internet. So I think that's really smart too, is using it as a test case. Now you obviously have to be able to kind of figure out what your rubric is for testing and what's good, what's bad, and how to make that work. But honestly, there's so much juice in podcasting, right? One of the things that I talk about a lot because my background is also in sales. So sales and marketing is a
I
profit
can
plan.
totally see that. You're like you could sell anything.
The funny part is for the first 2 years of my entrepreneurial journey, I'm like, I'm not a salesperson. I don't like
Well,
okay.
you just accepted it and you're like,
Okay.
I'm good at this.
Right. But talking about a profit plan. And here's the thing with people that come on podcasts a lot. And it's funny to me because we talked about off mic about this, where they're like bragging, like, yeah, I've been on so many podcasts. I'm like, I don't need you to pitch me. I've been on so many podcasts. I'm like, oh, okay. I'm like, so what were the results? Like, what did you get from, oh, visibility. I like people know. I'm like, okay, great. No, I like at all times, my mind is on, yes, you want to get out there, but out there to what end? We are in business. Like at the end of the day, we're in business. And a business only exists when there's actual cash flow, money. And so when you think about what is possible with podcasting, folks tend to stop at the vanity metrics of like, okay, I was on so and so's podcast and it felt great. And, maybe a few thousand people listened to me over an extended period of time. And that's kind of it. I think like anything else, there's needs to be intention. The same way that I was intentional with how I pitched you,
Mhm.
right? Because it wasn't just like hey, I've been in marketing for 15 plus years and blah.
Yeah, it wasn't a blanket pitch. I can
No,
pick up a blanket pitch in a hot second.
right. And so from there, now when this drops, I'm gonna go, you know, hyperspeed to whatever that post is that you have and watch the comments. Every single person that comments, I'm responding to. And then I'm DMing and thanking them for watching the episode and asking for their feedback. Whoever likes the post, I'm doing the exact same thing to. Then I'm resharing it on my
Okay, that is gold actually. Like that is sincerely going the extra mile, like that's legit.
and not only are you helping yourself, you're also showing the podcast host, "Oh, I I made a good bet."
Yeah.
Right? I brought this person on my show and now they're actually helping me with engagement.
Yes, and actually that goes a long way with me too, because I think people sometimes ask to be on these podcasts, and then they ask me, "How are you gonna promote my episode?"
What?
Yes. Yeah. "How are you going to promote my episode?" And I'm like, "Well, we are going to do this." Right? Like, so it's interesting to me that, like, sometimes it's not always a two-way street.
It's really unfortunate.
Which makes them miss opportunities. Like, why wouldn't they want to promote it? I mean, I think that they're going to, but I think it's just a poor choice of I cannot talk today. It's a poor choice of words to ask to come on my show and then ask me how I plan to promote them.
Yeah, I think the let me be careful here. I think there are different types of people in this world at all times, right? No matter what industry, what you're doing, there's just different types of people. They're the people that have their hands out, right? They're the people that have their hands up, like, not me, not me, not it,
Yep.
right? And then there are people that's like, hey, let's come together, right? They're pulling you closer to be like, let's do this thing together, let's partner, let's work together. And I've seen it all, right? Because I am also a podcaster.
Yeah.
And I've seen the promise of like, yeah, of course we're gonna do that. We're gonna help you. And crickets,
Yep.
right? I've seen, I've seen the kind of you come on and then I like never hear from you again. And honestly, yes, we help people pitch to get on shows and we prep you to be on the show. But genuinely, it's the after that I think a lot of people just miss the boat completely. Like, one of the things I'm actually gonna do it on wax so that you can't say no, uh, is that I would love to kind of have, like, a virtual coffee with you just to talk about PR and, like, what you're doing right now with your business, and if there's any way that we can actually partner outside of just this episode, right?
Love
Because
it.
I think it makes sense,
Yeah.
right? People are not thinking that way a lot of times when they come on podcasts. They're coming on literally thinking about what's in it for me for the 30, 45 minutes, and then they're done moving on with their day. If you think of all of this as an opportunity to squeeze all the juice out of every single piece of engagement, you can get so much from it, right? Beyond
There has to be
the
some kind of call to action.
yeah,
I look
beyond
at, like, a podcast interview to me is like top of funnel, you know?
it is.
So, but
It
people when I
is.
start saying those, like, marketing lingo, then people are like, "Ah, whoa," "top of funnel, what does that mean?" You know? All I mean by that, I'm sure everyone listening knows, is, like, that's the moment when they first hear about you. We're gathering people into our funnel here, but what's the next step in the funnel? It can't just stop at the podcast episode of like,
Exactly.
cool, everybody heard me. I hope they went and found me on LinkedIn or Instagram and followed me. Like you have to have a plan of what's the next step. And I see some of my guests do this really, really well. And I see others that miss the opportunity.
Yeah, it definitely for me, and this is for anything, it's not just podcasting. If you don't have a plan, and you can call it a profit plan across the board for anything that you're doing, you're really missing out because at the end of the day, because it's evergreen too, it's I can like a year from now come back and still use these clips. Right? To promote whatever it is that we got going on. Like, that's the power of all of this. People are sleeping at the wheel. They really are. And I know that everybody, especially kind of since you interviewed Eric, I think his last name's Thompson. Can't remember his last name.
Eric Olson.
Gold, yeah.
Yep.
A few years back. That was like 2022, right?
Yes. Lemon,
And
I can't remember the name, but yes, Eric's awesome.
yeah, so listening to what he was saying then, right? Of like, oh, podcast is becoming this thing. And I'm like, and then it became a thing. Like 3 years
Yeah,
after, it's just like exploded, right? And everyone is wanting to be. This to me feels like the beginning stages of like when Facebook ads became a thing.
yeah,
Everyone was spending money on Facebook ads. Everyone was doing Facebook ads, trying to figure it out or whatever. What was happening? Facebook was getting rich.
Yep.
And a lot of people were losing a lot of money. Why? Because they were just throwing money at the thing, not really understanding how to leverage it, not really and studying and iterating and spending the time. The people that took the time to genuinely understand what this new, like, avenue could really mean and how to leverage it outside of just the ads piece are now multimillionaires. Right? And I feel the same way about podcasting. So, I love that you've been doing it for, like, what's been now 5 years, 4 years?
Oh, I think 3? I think in January
Oh,
it was 3.
it was 3?
Dude, I have lost track of time, to be honest. I think it was 3 years in January.
Okay, I thought it was 4. Okay. I think that this is perfect. Like, you're kind of hitting the stride when everybody now is like, "Oh, I need to start a podcast."
Yeah, well, and, like, when I first started the podcast, it has to be an evolution. When I first started the podcast, I thought I was going to create content to give business owners insight and opportunity to, like, learn about marketing and PR, and I did that content for a little while, and then I threw in some content that was about, oh my gosh, I wanna say the episode was something about, like, working in an agency, something about that, like how to know when to hire or fire or something like that. And literally my DMs blew up with people that were like, "Oh my god, this is the most valuable podcast I've ever listened to. Like I played this for my entire for my boss and the entire leadership team and blah blah blah." And I was like, "Dude, sometimes I think your listeners will tell you, like it just started to evolve naturally based on the feedback I was getting. And I was like, oh, apparently people like this kind of content. So, and it is something that I'm passionate about. I'm not going to just wander off in some direction, into turn into a true crime podcast, like that's not who I am. I have no value to add to that. I've never been kidnapped before or murdered. So, and I don't work for a police department. I have nothing to add to that world. So, um, I think it just started to evolve on its own. And I'm a big believer in like just exactly what you said about starting your business. Like the market was already calling for it. And you were primed and you were knowledgeable and you were the one that was like, I can step into that, you know? Same thing with this podcast. Like, and we went from like our subscribers literally tripled just because looked and saw what was working and followed that
That is whew,
while still
as
staying
much as
true to myself.
yeah, well, that too. But as much as we talk about in marketing the creation piece, what I think a lot of times we don't spend enough time on is like the analysis part. It's the boring thing. It's the
Yeah.
pulling apart. You threw the spaghetti at the wall. It's now pulling it apart to see like what's stuck and like figure out why it's stuck and how can we do more of the thing that's sticking, because then you can kind of okay. And the reason why like I understand podcasting to be so influential is because I've seen it work for us, which is why we still pitch me.
Mhm.
Right? Because then we get to test out things. Full transparency, my pitch to you was something that we were testing, right? We're still in the testing phase of like how do we want to do this? And that iteration is what's going to make us stand out, not just in getting people placed on really good podcasts like this one, but thinking through what happens after. Thinking through, okay, we've seen that when people are a lot more proactive in promoting the episodes, not just kind of doing their own thing, but going into the community and becoming a part of that with the podcasters, we've seen some really good things happen after the fact. I've gotten a client from DMing someone because they commented on a podcaster's like promo.
Really?
Yeah. Why do you think I do it?
Yeah.
I'm not doing things just to
Yeah, well, and just building connections too. I think that,
Yeah.
when we have a client that goes on a podcast, and we're a little different because we're in the hospitality, travel, and tourism space, so we do a little bit of thought leadership work in that space. But especially if, hi everyone listening, if you are in the space of service of any way, if you are an attorney, a lawyer, an attorney, if you are,
CPA.
Yes, a CPA. Gosh, I mean, we had an accountant on to talk about, like, agency, finance and
Mhm.
anything
Any
in that
consultant,
space.
any
Listen,
consultant.
yes, any sort of consultant of any nature, like, that is all you, you know? And when they go on the podcast, we always say, "What's the call to action at the end?" And the call to action is not, Follow me on LinkedIn," or something like that. Like, can you give a freebie of some sort? Can you give a free download? Can you give, or can they attend a free webinar that you're gonna be hosting about a topic? Or what can you give to the audience to continue the relationship? And don't just say follow me on social, you know? So we help them set up some kind of freebie or something of the nature to garner their email address,
Mhm.
to garner an opportunity to reach out to that person again. And so I feel like so many people miss the freaking boat by going on all these podcasts or even traditional media,
Yep.
and like their website's a hot mess, or the podcast, they don't have any kind of call to action at the end for some way to continue the conversation. They are missing an opportunity. And yes, the visibility is cool, but that's the real hook, is like the opportunity to reach people again, you know?
So I have 2 things to say about that. All of what you just said, spot on, right? The 2 additional pieces that I wanna add there is that your freebie has to have some kind of value.
Yeah.
For the love of all things holy, make sure that it's not something that just, like, regurgitated from ChatGPT that you didn't really check, that you're just kinda pulling together and throwing it at people. Because even if you get that email, once the person opens it and realizes that it's trash, that's no longer a lead.
Yeah.
They're now not gonna trust you.
Yep.
So make sure the thing that you're creating will give them enough value and then kind of point them to whatever your offer is. And of course, there should be a call to action there as well, of like, "Hey, now that you've gone through this, like,
Yeah.
connect with me." The second piece is that the first people should not be finding out about your freebie and being like, "Oh, that's interesting. The whole conversation was about this thing over here,
Else.
and
Yeah.
the freebie is completely different."
Yeah.
You have to find a way to seed whatever the freebie is throughout your conversation. When I say seed it, it's kind of just like planting the little,
Yeah. It has to make
seeds
sense, you know?
along the way in your conversation. So you should not be surprised by the end of this conversation if I'm saying, "Hey, there's a freebie about podcast pitching." Why? The entire
Makes sense.
conversation has been about,
Um,
right? So, like, it just make sure that there are those through lines and that there is actual full value there, because I know as a former agency owner in kind of the creative space, when I went on podcasts, the freebie, I mean, when I first started was terrible because it was just like, "Oh, 5 ways to," like, okay. Really?
yeah.
But when I started kind of thinking through what are people genuinely having issues with, what is the thing that keeps coming up over and over and over and over as an issue, and how can I help people kind of move down the line a bit to have them realize that they really do have a problem. Like, their leg is really bleeding. Like, they're literally in need of the thing that I offer. That's when I started seeing people actually download the stuff.
Heck yeah. And also, like, explaining to our clients that the podcast appearance is not the end goal. Like, the end goal is we're just using this as an opportunity to get them in our marketing machine. I have a random example. So we represent all kinds of people in the hospitality space, and we had a cocktail bar that we did an International Women's Day event for, and we partnered with other women on, their target market is like women, professional women. So, we targeted, or we partnered with like a women-owned business organization that, like, they have all these women, female entrepreneurs in that group. So We had this, like, cocktail party, it didn't really cost us much money at all, we gave everybody, like, a little glass of champagne, and we had 50 women attend, and it's a small town, so we were like, "Hey, that's a win," you know, like, um, and the feedback from the team was like, "This was not a win. We didn't sell for that many people, we should have sold more drinks, we only sold X dollars." And I said, "Hey, I know we're, like, yes, we want to sell drinks, but ultimately, this partnership helped get us visibility in front of their audience. We had 50 new women who had never been in the doors ever. We got all of their email addresses and sent them a bounce back for the next time they come back into the cocktail bar. So that is far more valuable to me than how many martinis did we sell that night."
And herein lies the issue. I believe that people still don't understand the power of email marketing and the power of having access to someone's inbox. As much as we complain about emails dead, I've been hearing that for 10 years.
Same.
It must be the slowest death
Email is
ever.
not dead. We have clients that are generating thousands upon thousands of dollars of revenue from email marketing. So I'm going to go ahead here and say email marketing is not dead. But that just goes to show you, like, people are so focused on the short term. How many martinis did we sell? And I'm like, no, no, no.
Yes.
I'm looking at the life of this business. I'm trying to make this where the spot for professional females in this town, like, I'm looking at long term, the life of a client kind of thing. But
Yeah.
many times business owners are so focused on dollars and cents. I was on
Well,
this
the
podcast.
many
How much money did it make me immediately?
yeah, and, to be honest, I would say they're more focused on, like, vanity metrics of, like,
For sure. How
in
many
our
listens
world,
did it get? Yeah.
followers and, like, something to make you frankly, your ego feel good.
Yep.
But at the end of the day, you have to look at this as a long game. I think anyone who's in entrepreneurship understands this is a marathon, right? Not a sprint. And relationships, as you mentioned at the top of the conversation, like, that's really where the money's gonna come from. When people genuinely know you and know you as the resource for things, they can be like, "Oh, yeah, Carrolee, yeah, she does this thing." And it could just be from one conversation that we had, but I was intentional in that conversation. We exchanged things that wasn't just like, "So what do you do? What do you do?" And, like, we're done. It's like, "Hey, I have a new puppy," and really engaging with people. Even a conversation that we had before we started recording that was, like, got super real,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
To be able to connect with people, that's really, for me, what has grown my businesses. And that's what I've seen for people. And so beyond the pitching part, I think, which is so weird to say, but it was a revelation earlier this year, what we're really selling and what we're really teaching our clients is intentionality, right? Because so many people go into things, like we said, their handout, not really thinking about reciprocity, not really thinking about how can I come into a situation and make everyone here win? I'll win, they'll win, we'll all feel like this was a great experience. And by the end of it, know that there are other things kind of coming down the pipe. I mean, I've had people that I've known for 15 years, 10 years, still coming back and giving me referrals for websites, by the way, that I no longer build, but
Yeah, yeah, you're like, "And let me refer you out to someone
but,
who can
like,
now help you. I've evolved."
right, but they're referrals, and those are relationships that I don't have to see them every day or every week or every month or every year for them to send me stuff. There are people I've never met that I grew relationships over the internet that they send me business and vice versa. And so I think if you're listening to this at all and you're in marketing, I want to encourage you, one, to be a lot more intentional with how you're going about building those relationships, but also two, this is something I wanted to say earlier that I didn't get to. I was definitely the cobbler that had no shoes.
Oh, yeah. Same. Hi.
Yeah. Hello.
Hi.
And that was my promise for this business. I was like, absolutely not. we're not gonna be out here looking crazy on the internet while trying to tell people about visibility. No.
Yeah, I have to be visible. I have to practice what I preach.
Thank you.
Yeah,
So, like, for anyone that's here, if you're going to go on podcasts and do all the things that we're talking about here, make sure that your LinkedIn is branded. Make sure that you filled out all the sections, that your banner actually has like specifics about how people can actually get to connect with you in whatever way that they need to. Make sure that you're fully like using all of the platforms to the fullest of their extent, because not only are people who are listening to your podcast going to do that, I guarantee you the podcast hosts are going to do that.
for sure. But I also want to call out some podcast hosts for a hot second here because I think I said, about the people asking me how I was going to promote their episode. But on the flip side, I think podcast hosts need to genuinely look at a person and say, is this expert going to be valuable for my audience? I am really, really, and I read every single pitch myself. I do not have my team go through them or anything. I read every pitch myself and decide, like, is this person a true expert? Because what I see is that podcast hosts will get a pitch, they'll go straight to that person's Instagram and be like, they only have like 5,000 followers. I'm not having them on my pod. It's all about Instagram followers. And that to me immediately tells me that you're playing really small.
Yeah.
Like that you've never met an undercover badass because you need to really look at a whole lot more than what their freaking Instagram looks like. I think it's a sensitive topic for me because one time we had a client who was literally so intelligent and really a true expert at what she did, but she didn't have very many followers at all. And nobody would host her on the podcast. And I,
Yeah.
I finally had somebody write back that says, hey, her resume is really, really strong, but it looks like she doesn't have the promotional power that we're looking for in our guests. And I was like, wow. So you basically just said this person would be so valuable for my audience, but I don't think that they are Instagrammable enough. Like, so there's some seriously shallow podcast hosts out there.
Yeah, I mean, that has happened to us more times than would like to admit. Uh, there's one excellent example. She's actually in the marketing comms world. She's an internal comms professional, has been working for 15 years, almost 20 years in the field, expert, right? But she's had her head down doing the work, right? She worked her way up to senior leadership in a law firm in their comms department, and then decided to go and kind of do her own thing as a consultant. And here you are coming back and saying, well, it looks like she only has, 500 followers on LinkedIn. How would she be able to promote the episode? And I'm like, okay, thank
That
you.
just tells me that that podcast host is not truly invested in educating their audience and they're more invested in their own gain.
And what I love is that same person we were able to get on a much larger platform, a much larger podcast, and she crushed it.
There you go.
Right? So, like, it is really, to your point, that's to their detriment, and I can't really small-mindedness or having a limited mindset, I can't help you with that. Uh,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I definitely don't think all podcasts are created equal for that reason, because it's not just numbers, which is also, again, like, why we don't just look at, okay, for podcast pitching, only pitch podcasts that have this amount of listenership or whatever the case is, because then you're really potentially missing out on some great conversation and also a niche audience that might be perfect for you.
Exactly. Like I said, I'm like, I think we have like 600 followers across all platforms, which is nothing compared to some of these people that are like, I have 1 million downloads on my podcast. But you know what? 600 people that listen in every week, that give me feedback, that send me topic ideas. They are actively engaged. And I know they reach out to people that are guests as well. So I'm like, to me, I'd rather have 600 people like that are dialed in this niche little community we've created rather than focusing on trying to get to a million downloads of God knows who, you know?
Right. I totally agree. And that's gonna serve, I think, whatever platform you're building, if it's done, it goes back to the word intentional, with intention, the sky's the limit for that. Because it's not just kind of trying to be popular and trying to cast this net of like whoever wants to, right? The more that it's kind of like, no, these people, and like I said before to you, there's a high likelihood that all of these people have very key things in common, not just like what they do for work. And that's really dope because you get them in a room for real. And who knows what kind of incredible things could happen from that.
Exactly.
But yeah, that's really what it is. And so I feel like I went through the 3 things that I talked to you about before,
Yeah.
conceptions. We kind of peppered them throughout the conversation.
No, this has been so great, and I appreciate you coming on the show. I know there are a lot of people who want to continue the conversation with you afterwards. So tell them how to find you if they want more info about you and the society.
Sure. So if you want more information about me, you can obviously LinkedIn is my drug of choice when it comes to social media. So you can find Carrolee Drummond's on there. However, for the folks that are wanting to kind of DIY, if you're already pitching and maybe you're not getting the responses that you want, or you're wanting to be more intentional, as we mentioned, we've created a really comprehensive mini course that walks you through the steps of not just the idea of pitching or what to do when you're on the episode recording itself, but talking about that last piece of like what to do after and some really kind of key things to do to stand out. We walk you through all of that. And it's a self-guided because I'm definitely that person that's like, you know, everyone's starting at the same time. And then 4 weeks later, I'm like, oh, I'm still on week one because life happened. Right. So self-guided and you can take the course. It's a 4-week course. And I check in every so often, like real time on whoever's taking the course to make sure that you're tracking. But those are the 2 things. You can connect with me. CarolieMoore.com is also a good resource if you wanna check out all the other things that we do.
Love it. All right, y'all. We will drop the links below. Carolee, thank you so much. What an awesome conversation. I'm so glad you reached out and I appreciate you coming on the show.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me, Whitney.
We will see you on the next one. Thanks for listening to Brand Rescue. For more practical marketing and PR support, head over to yourmarketingheroes.com and let's fix that hot mess you've been calling a strategy.